Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, remembering the Holocaust across Israel and honoring the fallen in a moving ceremony at Yad Vashem. Plus, a power struggle in Sudan threatens to plunge the country into civil war. Orthodox Christians celebrate Jesus' resurrection in an ancient ceremony at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And Christian pastors tour Israel, connecting with the Jewish roots of their faith. All this and more on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl. As Israel pauses to remember the Holocaust, it also faces a deadly threat from Iran. In a surprising twist this year, Israel is hosting the most prominent Iranian to ever visit the Jewish state. Sirens blared and Israel stood still on Tuesday, as it has since 1959, to mark Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Day. Known in Hebrew as the Shoah, Israel's remembrance began Monday evening at Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial, marking the 80th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
We are one people, and one people we shall remain, brought together not only by a painful history, but also by our shared hope-filled future and fate.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu used the solemn backdrop to remind the world of the threat Iran poses to the Jewish state.
The victory of the past does not alone guarantee the victory of the future. That is why we firmly fight any nuclear agreement with Iran, which would pave its way to nuclear weapons. For the same reason, we fight aggressively against Iran's terrorist branches around us.
And this year, a special visitor also stood with Israel, the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. He tweeted, "We are very happy to be here and are dedicated to working toward the peaceful and prosperous future that the people of our region deserve. From the children of Cyrus to the children of Israel, we will build this future together in friendship." Each year, Holocaust survivors participate in the ceremony by lighting 6 torches in memory of the 6 million Jews murdered by Nazi Germany and its cohorts. This is the newest exhibit at Yad Vashem. It's called the Book of Names, and it contains the names of 4,800,000 Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. Ephraim Mol lost both of his parents at Auschwitz and showed us their names in the book.
This is the name Mor Ribin of my father.
He told CBN News about the Jewish family that adopted him and the Christian woman in Paris who saved them.
My adoptive parents were hidden in her flat. Yes, I called her Mommy Lucy.
Mol showed us a picture he said tells his story.
I was here in black and white. It is Auschwitz. And now you can see the wars of Israel in the Israeli army. 6-Day War, Yom Kippur War, and Lebanon War, yes. Now I am in this place. And also my son, he is in the police, yes.
He sees Israel as a microcosm of the world.
Today, actually in Israel, it was always the symbol in microcosm what is the function of the whole humanity. In microcosm, it is in Israel.
86-year-old Robert Bonfil lit one of the candles. He showed us the name of his grandfather in the book.
Here is the name of my grandfather, David Israel, Athens, Greece, place of death unknown.
His family was saved by Christians in Greece.
The archbishop of the town, his name was Ezekiel. He was very, very friendly of us and saved my father and us. I want to remember the saviors, that is the family of Konstantinos and Vasiliki Goulas, who were in the mountains and received us and saved us in their house.
Bonfil's 26-year-old grandson, Captain Noam Kolb, accompanied him.
The lesson I learned from the Holocaust is the importance, from the one hand, the importance of having a state as Israel, a Jewish state, as an asylum for all the Jews all over the world. But from the other hand, the importance of treating the best way all the people, all human beings, because we're all humans and we can't let never such a horrible thing occur again.
A deadly power struggle is rocking the East African nation of Sudan. The army and a rival paramilitary group are locked in a battle for dominance that erupted over the weekend. Just 2 years ago, both sides worked together to mount a coup that overthrew the government. Sudan, once considered a state sponsor of terror, has been inching closer towards democracy and recently forged new ties with Israel by joining the Abraham Accords. Today, heavy fighting in the capital of Khartoum has killed more than 180 civilians, and many fear the violence could spiral into a bloody civil war. A top U.S. Republican senator just came to Israel from Saudi Arabia to announce he and the Biden administration are trying to work out a huge deal, the Saudis recognizing the state of Israel. Senator Lindsey Graham says Saudi Arabia wants better relations with the U.S. It's trying to make itself more appealing to outsiders, and it wants to stabilize the Mideast and Gulf region. Graham believes a peace deal with Israel would help make all that happen.
It would give Israel security that she has not known since her founding. It would be monumental in terms of the region to have the largest, most consequential force in the Arab world, Saudi Arabia, recognize the one and only Jewish state.
On another front, Graham says the Saudi crown prince told him if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, the Saudis will have to go nuclear too. The senator believes it would then only be a matter of time till the entire region becomes nuclear armed and much more dangerous. Thousands of Orthodox Christians from around the world filled Jerusalem this weekend to participate in the Holy Fire ceremony and to celebrate Jesus' resurrection. This ancient ritual happens every year inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Christian tradition says Jesus was crucified, buried, and resurrected. During the ceremony, it's believed that a flame miraculously ignites inside Jesus' tomb and is used to light the candles of Christian faithful. The whole church is filled with candlelight as worshipers cry out, "Christ is risen." Church leaders say the ceremony has taken place in Jerusalem for nearly 2,000 years. Coming up, keeping Holocaust stories of courage and heroism alive for the younger generation in one living room at a time. As time goes on, there are fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors left to tell their stories of survival at the hands of the Nazis. One initiative is introducing the younger generation to Holocaust survivors face to face. It's called Zikaron Basalon, Living Room Remembrance, a powerful way for Holocaust survivors to tell their stories directly to young people, carrying a longer-lasting impact.
It is a social initiative commemorating the Holocaust, connecting between Holocaust survivors and the younger generation in a small, intimate setting.
Sharon Buenos, global director of Zikaron Basalon, recently invited about 20 international journalists to her apartment to experience this approach for themselves.
About 11 years ago, a group of young Israelis wanted to commemorate the Holocaust in a different way. They found that the traditional way of ceremonies was no longer enough, and they were looking for new meaning for the Holocaust National Remembrance Day. They gathered in one home, they invited a Holocaust survivor, and it was a very unique experience.
Born in 1923, Hannah Malka clearly remembers as a 16-year-old when Nazi Germany took over her home country of Czechoslovakia in just one night.
And at the time, it was the greatest democracy in all Europe. And we knew what happened in Germany, but we never thought that Hitler will try to come to a democratic land. Then one morning, before I went to school, I opened the radio and I heard the president say, "Be all of you quiet, don't fight, don't do anything. The Germans occupied Czechoslovakia."
In the Czech capital's Jewish quarter, life continued for 2.5 years. Then, in November 1941, Adolf Hitler said he was giving the Jews a city and began transporting them to the Theresienstadt ghetto.
All the Jews came to this place, and instead of 6,000 people, we were 50,000 people. So you can imagine how full it was. I was living in a flat of Czech family, so we were about 70 people in a 2-room flat with one WC and with one place to wash themselves.
The true intention for Theresienstadt was a transit station for sending Jews to concentration camps.
There were always transports. Always people came and people got away. But we didn't know where they go because we had no idea that there is a place like Auschwitz. We just felt that this must be something worse than Theresienstadt. There were the little children there, and the children were not with their parents. We hope that the children are our future, that at least if we won't survive, the children will survive.
The Nazis also used Theresienstadt as propaganda, calling it the spa town, to conceal the true purpose of the concentration camps.
They made it very beautiful because there should come a commission of the Red Cross. There were flowers suddenly, and there was a coffee house. There were 2 people living in a room and not 50. And the Red Cross came. And they said it's not necessary to go to Auschwitz because probably everything what they say about Auschwitz is just the same as what they say about Theresienstadt.
The Nazis eventually sent Hannah and the other children to Auschwitz in Poland. Hannah was among 200 girls that were then sent to Germany. She spent the rest of the war as a maid or working in a factory for the Germans. In 1946, Hannah came to pre-state Israel. Like many survivors, she didn't share her story for years. Later, she felt the need to speak out when she saw how people nowadays often treat each other.
When I hear how people belong one to the other, it just hurts me because in Theresienstadt there was so hard and we had nothing to eat and nothing to do. You never stole from someone and you never did something bad. In the opposite, when someone needed help, you always helped him.
Participants in the salon experience also have the opportunity to share their thoughts and ask questions.
What I liked is that you are trying to tell us not only the horror, but also positive stories. I like your sense of humor.
You said you went back to Germany as well, right?
For a long time, I didn't want to go to Germany. But after that, I said it's silly because they were good Germans too.
What is the message that you want everyone here to live here today?
Even in the worst situations, you can find something good and something nice, and you can find nice people.
Zikaron Basalan is now in 2 million homes in 65 countries, with private individuals hosting evenings like this one.
The Holocaust is not only the story of the Jewish people. I think all of us should carry that torch of remembrance and carry a testimony with us.
Buenos says she hopes one day 6 million homes will light a light to remember each victim of the Holocaust. Up next, Danny Dayan, the chairman of Yad Vashem, talks about the miracle that is the Jewish state. CBN News recently spoke with Danny Dayan, chairman of Israel's Holocaust Memorial Yad Vashem. In our second installment of this interview, Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell asked about the impact of the Holocaust on the Jewish people.
You said earlier that the Holocaust was the DNA of the Jewish people. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's part of the DNA of the Jewish people. You know, there is no Judaism without remembrance. Judaism is based on remembrance. You know, Pesach, Passover, what is it? We remember the event of our liberation from slavery in Egypt 4,000 years ago. Hanukkah, what is it? We remember our liberation from the Greeks more than 2,000 years ago. Tisha B'Av, the day of mourning, the annual day of fast and mourning, is remembering the destruction of Jerusalem, of the Holy Temple. So really, there is no Judaism without remembering our history. And the Shoah is a cataclysmic event in Jewish history that happened only 80 years ago. You know, I spoke a minute ago about Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, but I want to be more clear about that. Israel was not established because of the Holocaust. Israel was established in spite of the Holocaust. Israel would have been a much robust, greater, secure, successful country if there were additional 6 million Jews and their descendants in the world.
We're coming up on the 75th anniversary of the independence and the establishment of the Jewish state. What are your thoughts looking back 75 years?
I think there are, first of all, joy. First of all, joy. Joy that we have the privilege to live in a Jewish generation that enjoys the not obvious fact that we have an independent sovereign state in our ancestral homeland. I think there are three ways to look at it to understand the joy. One is to look at the picture, a photograph. Take a photograph of Israel 2023 and analyze it. There is light, a lot of light, but also some shadows. But we can rejoice that we have that. The second is to take two photographs, Israel 1948, Israel 2023, and compare it. That is incredible. It's mind-boggling. The difference, the leap that we made from 48 to 2023 is simply a miracle. And the third way, which is the way I prefer to do that, is not to take one photograph or two photographs, but to take a film that starts with the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70 and finishes today. In the midst, you have, as I said, the persecutions, the discrimination, the massacre, the Shoah, also important achievements. When you understand the path that we went through, then you are really overflown with joy.
So you see this as a miracle?
I see this as a miracle. I see this as a fulfillment of the unimaginable. Look, what is Zionism for me? Zionism for me is the fact that a people that was evicted from its land by an imperialist power in the year 70, there was the most underprivileged people in the world, returns to its homeland and builds it again. The fact, you know, people ask me why did I come from my native Argentina here? Because I wanted to be a protagonist in the most amazing adventure of the Jewish people, and not just to sit in the theater and see the film.
Coming up, Christian pastors walking where Jesus walked and seeing their own faith with new eyes. For years, Bishop Robert Stearns of Eagle's Wings has been bringing global Christian leaders to Israel. CBN News met with his most recent group and found out why Stearns feels it's vital to let them see and experience the land of the Bible firsthand.
I don't think there's anything more crucial in this hour than to connect Christian leaders to biblical literacy, and where better for the Bible to come alive than in the land of the Bible. When we walk here and we meet Jesus, the Jew, in his context, all of a sudden we understand the covenantal continuity of God from Abraham to Isaiah to David to Jesus to Paul to the nations of the earth. Connecting believing Christians to Israel is paramount to strengthening, defining, and expanding our faith.
The experience makes an impact.
It's been really amazing because reading the Bible most of my life and then actually seeing the place where everything happened and walking the same places that Jesus went, it makes everything so much more real.
It's amazing. I think that it's wild to see the biblical narrative just come to life. And I think one of the biggest things that just caught my attention is after close to 2,000 years, the Jews being gone and how God's faithfulness brought them back. As a South African, seeing New South Africa and what God has done in our country, I just felt like this experience here gave me so much hope.
I think it's important. You know, it's such a key, controversial topic across the nations. And so for us to get on the ground, listen to the different stories, all the different perspectives is so wonderful.
For so many pastors and leaders, going to the Holy Land as a bucket list item that too many times they don't fulfill till they're in their 60s or their 70s towards the end of their ministry. When we're able to identify young leaders who are on an upward trajectory of their ministry and bring them into alignment with what God is doing in this land, the modern day miracle of the people and land of Israel, that takes that experience and allows it to expand in their own sphere of influence. 68% of the leaders we have brought to the land of Israel for the first time have brought back a group from their church within 12 months. So we're exponentially increasing connection to the land by investing in the lives of young leaders.
Stearns believes a first-hand experience allows visitors to see beyond bias and hopeless headlines.
I think the impact is that the mainstream media loves to blow things out of proportion and create false narratives. When people come to the land and they see the incredible peaceful coexistence that's happening on the ground between Jews and Christians and Muslims and Arabs and Druze, and the complexity of the land here, and yet the great harmony that we see most of the time, day by day, you begin to deconstruct the fake news, you begin to deconstruct the false narrative, and there's a lot of hope that comes, right? The national anthem of Israel, Hatikva, there's a lot of hope that begins to come, that praying for the peace of Jerusalem is not just a metaphorical ideal, but it's a reality if we will add our strength and our work toward that prayer.
Another of Stearns' efforts complements his ministry of bringing global leaders to Israel.
I want to continue to invite the nations of the earth to set aside the first Sunday of every October as the global day of prayer for the peace of Jerusalem. The body of Christ worldwide just lost our patriarch, Pastor Jack Hayford, who was my co-chairman in this. He was with me, with Pat Robertson, when we launched this in 2004 in the Rose Garden of the Knesset. And by God's grace, it is spread now to 172 nations. Our materials in 29 languages around the world. So I invite the global body of Christ to set aside the first Sunday of every October to fulfill our biblical mandate to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. When there's peace in Jerusalem, there will be peace on planet Earth, and we will see the return of Messiah.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can also access CBN content through our CBN apps and email blasts. I'm Julie Stahl. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.